So create your hours of operation and write down when are you working on your business and let your family know. But then also when your kids are asking you a question, there's no, what? And your kids pulling on you like this, trying to get your attention. Just a minute, just a minute, just a minute. Don't blur the boundaries. Get in, get out, focus and finish. Quitting your day job to pursue your health coaching practice is one of the most important yet tricky decisions you'll make. On the one hand, you've spent years creating a career in medicine or teaching or some other demanding position. And on the one hand, you are so eager to leap into your health coaching practice and you want to quit that day job. But on the other hand, that day job is paying the bills. And too often, people either wait too late and burn out, or they jump too soon and risk their financial stability. So, knowing when to quit and how exactly to navigate that transition is critical to your success as a health coach. And it is a very important decision, and yet almost nobody is talking about it. And this is one of those decisions that I had to make as I left my 25-year medical career, working over 100 hours a week and raising 4 little kids to become a 6-figure health coach. So how did I make that happen with no time? We're going to cover 7 steps. There's 7 questions. We're going to workshop style this with you. So grab a pen and answer the questions to each of these 7 questions that will help you know exactly when it's time to quit your day job and the important factors that you must consider so that you too can have that amazing 6-figure success. So the first question to ask yourself is, what is your personal poverty line? Now, what I mean by that is what is the bare minimum that you need to survive? How much do you need to make each month in order to survive? Now, I let you set your poverty line when I'm working with my clients, and maybe they're a surgical OR nurse, and you get to decide how much you can live off of. So you want to know this number. It is the only reason that I was able to jump that chasm and leave my medical career and create a health coaching practice. And I remember being in a group of other clients, coaches, and a mentor asking that question to maybe 40 of us in the room. And I was the only one who knew that number. I needed to know the number. I was the sole income earner for our family of 6. I needed to make sure my bills were paid. But we can adjust that a little bit. So we got to at least know the number. So how much do you need to earn each month to cover your living expenses, your food, your shelter, any other expenses that are fixed that you have to pay? What are those bills and how much do you have to earn to cover that? We need to know that number. The other thing then we do is once we know that number, and if you don't know it offhand, get a guesstimate and then definitely go back and precisely define that number. Then look at what can you adjust and alter. So for example, can you decrease your expenses and can you increase your revenue in some way without it taking extra time? So for us, we downsized our house twice. We got a smaller and smaller. We just kept getting smaller. We didn't eat out for about 7 years. There's some health benefits to that. No new clothes for kids for school for years. We stopped buying the school pictures each year that came out. We made it that lean. I was willing to let go of that in order to create this business. I wasn't willing to go without shelter or home. Was willing to go to a smaller home with less expenses, but I wasn't willing to get rid of a home. So you get to decide what you might be like, "I'm not getting rid of my Ferrari." You decide what your personal poverty line is. What are the things that you're able to let go of to keep the number that your health coaching practice has to earn before you can break free as low as possible? And then how can you increase revenue? So when I switched from my hospital practice, where I was working 100 hours, then another opportunity, that's another phenomenal story of how that arose, wonderful synchronicity. But it allowed me to work less hours and create the same income. So, is there an opportunity there? So, what can you decrease in terms of your expenses, and what other ways can you increase revenue or income coming in? So, how can you adjust that so that you can make the leap easier? So that's the first thing. What is the poverty line for you? What is that number? Now, for me, that was still a six-figure practice a year. I needed to earn 100,000 as my poverty line, even by downsizing my house twice. But when I added up the the amount of, if I still had a medical practice, the amount of expenses that I had to pay for that, uh, college dues, license fees, malpractice insurance, and so on, in order to create revenue as a doctor, I still had a lot of expenses. And then adding on the living expenses for a family of six, and that all adds up. So I wasn't willing to get rid of the dog. There's certain things that you decide, what am I willing to let go of? I was willing not to eat out. I was willing to not do something. So find that number for you. And the answer is going to be an actual number. So get your best guess at the moment and then go back and look through your bills for the last few months and see how much is going out. And are there areas that you can trim? Are there things that this is not leading, knowing that you're wanting to create this six-figure health coaching practice? Does this help you get to your goal? Great. If it does not, then no. Now, part of the goal could be a healthy, happy family. So some of those expenses are part of creating a healthy, happy family. They stay. So what is your goal? And if creating this six-figure health coaching practice and letting go of maybe a toxic day job is there, then so first of all, what's the number? Secondly, how much time each week does your day job take? So include any commute times. So is it 40 hours a week? But include your commute times. Do you work 25 or 30 hours, but there's a commute time? So how many hours a week does that job take in order to earn that current revenue that we're trying to replace? And the reason why this is such a big deal is when I was looking at this, there really wasn't any doctor like myself who was earning a really great income as a radiologist. You can Google it. Who would become a health coach? Like, who would do that? And so there really wasn't any role model or track to follow in that regard. And when I asked questions about, like, when do you quit your day job? The answer I got was, well, when your health coaching practice is earning the same amount as your day job, you quit your day job. Hmm. My health coaching practice was zero, and I had about 0 hours a week to devote to it. My medical practice, my day job, was earning a a lot of money. And it was taking well over 100 hours a week one week, and the other week it was working 24/7 on call. So how in no time could a health coaching practice from a starting stop 0 replace a subspecialty radiologist income? That was a mystery that I couldn't figure out. And so that's where this is how I figured it out. And so likely you are not working the hours that I was working as a subspecialty radiologist and raising 4 kids at the same time. And if you are, awesome, I got you. We got you. We got you covered, all right? And maybe the great news is you don't need to replace a multiple 6, almost 7-figure income. Maybe you don't need to replace that. So, that's good news. But with those greater incomes often come greater expenses, some of which are challenging to unhook yourself from, because you might think this is a great idea to get real lean, but the others that you live with might not be as keen on that. But these are the things that you have to look at as you intentionally set your course of how can I leave this. Maybe for me, it was a toxic scenario. It was not sustainable. So you might be there too. And that's another factor. We'll talk a little bit about that, but just the actual numbers. What's your poverty line? And then how much time each week does it take to earn that income, earn that revenue? Because all of that time that it's taking is taking away from your health coaching practice, but it is paying the bills. Okay, so once we have that amount of time, including your prep time or your commute time, all of that. Third question, do you need to fully replace your day job income or with your health coaching practice in order to leave? And you might only need, again, to get to your poverty line. But with your particular day job, is it possible? This is really the question I'm asking. Is your current day job something that you can phase down, or is it all or none? So do you have to work at those same 40 hours? And then if you can't do that, you're fired, you're out of here? Or is it possible as your health coaching practice builds, you can taper down for a smoother transition? I did not initially have the option to taper down my hours. They would be fine to half my income, but they would not be fine to half the hours. So I still had to work those full hours, but I did my version of that by finding another opportunity that actually allowed me to have, it was a lower income, but almost the same for a lot less hours so that I could free some time up. But I was well into my journey into becoming a six-figure health coach at that point in time. So that's a question to ask yourself, is there a way to free up more time? And sometimes there's a way to free up more flexible time, especially after 2020 with the events there. More businesses are sometimes open, not always, but sometimes open to the option of doing something remote. And so that if you have flexibility in your time, that works too. And if you can avoid the commute time, that helps too. All right. So the next question is, how much time can you set aside to devote to setting up your health coaching business that can set you free? So how much time each week can you devote to your health coaching practice, to build your health coaching practice? And I'm going to ask you this question actually twice. So I want your best guess. If you were like, how much time can you commit each week to create your successful practice? And write that down. And now we're going to look in there and dig in a little bit deeper to see how much time do you really have. All right. So number 5, create your weekly calendar. Now I want you to write down all of your fixed non-negotiables. Again, you get to decide what those are. So there are 168 hours in a week. So I'll just save you the math there. 168 hours in a week. One of the things that most of us do every day is sleep. So if you sleep 8 hours and 7 days a week, Let's say 56 hours is sleeping time. Put that number down for you. How much time each week do you spend sleeping? Then how much time do you spend each week working? And put the hours down that you got from the very second question there about your commute time and your work time. So how much time do you spend working your day job? And then what else do we do in a week? Well, most of us eat. So how much time is devoted to meals? So breakfast is often quicker. There's lunch, there's dinner. So let's say generously, you don't need an hour for breakfast and an hour for lunch and an hour for dinner, but let's say it's an hour each. And within that hour, there's prep time. I'm just going to give it as a general, but I want you to do it for you. You might be a master chef. You might spend 6 hours a day on your meals. But how many hours a day do you spend on meals for yourself? And so let's say 3 times 7 days a week, 21 hours, but I want you to pick your number each week. What else do you do? Spending time with family. Now, spending time, you might spend time sleeping and working and eating with family. So there's overlap, but some other family things that you do. So let's just say there's 3 hours a night doing homework with kids and what have you, physical activities, taking kids to different activities. Let's say family, 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, 21 hours. For some of you, that number is going to be way less. And for some of you, that number might be more. But carve out and write down, what is that number for you? And then I just put fitness as another category. Let's say it's an hour a day, 7 hours a week. For some of you, it's going to be way less. And for some of you, it may be more. But how much time is spent in fitness? And then social is 5 hours. Let's say, well, just other social media, social things. Now, a lot of people spend 2.5 hours on average a day on social media. So if you're looking for where can I find some time to carve out this business, that's a good place to look and to start. And a lot of people have the false idea that scrolling on social media, and maybe they've heard that they should post something on social media. A lot of people make the false assumption that being on social media is somehow also building your business. Not necessarily true. In fact, almost always not true. So there is a role for it. There's a place for it, but you kind of want to get in, get out. And a lot of times there's some wasted time there. So add all of that up. So if you've been adding up, now there might be something else, another category, but if we just followed the category that I had, that all adds up to 150 hours a week. So add the number of hours up per week that you have fixed. They're every week, every day, no matter what. This is the things that I do. So we eat, we sleep, and certainly some days are and some weeks are going to be different, but I really want to get your typical week and those things that they're not budging. I'm not going to be creating my health coaching practice in this time because it's sleepy time or whatever that time is. Okay. So it's family time. So carve that out. So that leaves us out of our 168-hour week, that leaves us with 150 hours, or sorry, that leaves us with 18 hours. So out of that 168-hour week, in this example that I've just walked you through, 150 hours is pretty much spoken for. So that leaves us 18 hours of flex time. So we could spend 18 hours devoted to our creating this business of our dreams. That's possible. But maybe you signed up for another, getting your thesis or master's degree, and maybe that takes some extra time. And so that might cut down. But I want you to get a realistic number of how many hours each week can you devote to your practice. So I'm going to ask you the fourth question that I asked just before we did that again. So we said, how much time can you commit to your practice? Now, answer that question again with a little bit more clarity and education. How many hours a week can you devote to creating your six-figure health coaching practice? And write that number down. And I'm curious, and please pop in comments or let me know, did that number change? Did that number go up or did it go down? I would love to know after we looked at where we can allocate. Did that number go up when we realized, oh, actually, I do have time and I could replace it with something else with this? Or did it go down? So we just want to get a really accurate assessment of what we're dealing with because we don't want to quit our day job too soon, but we don't want to wait too late. And the fifth question is, when in your week can you consistently focus on creating your health coaching business? And where can you create some non-negotiable time? In other words, nothing gets in that time. So let's look at that. So in your week, middle of the night, you're probably sleeping. Where can you create that time? Is it during the day? Is it mornings? Is it evenings? Is it weekends? When can we create that time? Because here's what I know for sure. You can definitely build this business and create a six-figure health coaching practice part-time. You absolutely can. You can even do it in the pockets of your time, especially as you're trying to navigate away from a day job. But you can never, ever, ever build it in your spare time. I have never, not once, ever seen anyone create anything remotely looking like a successful health coaching business when they try to do it in their spare time. And unfortunately, that's what most people do, is they try to create their health coaching practice when they get a moment. After they've scrolled social media, after they've watched Netflix, when the moment inspires them, which is never. And then they spin their wheels because they don't exactly know what to do in that time. That does not work. But if you carve out your time and make it non-negotiable, that's when the magic happens. One of our six-figure health coaches, Connie, she has 5 kids, and she carves out this time the best that I've ever seen. And she sets her hours of operation. And I teach people to set sacred business hours of operation. And I want you to, I'm putting on my surgical gloves here in the visual. I want you to scrub in to your work. And when you're scrubbed into the operating room, you're not meeting people for lunch dates. You're not taking other calls. You're not scrolling social media. You are focused on your incredible life-saving, life-changing work. So you want to scrub in and focus. But then when it's time to scrub out and you're done with your work, then it's time to play with family and, enjoy meals with family and go hiking and do all of those wonderful things. But you're not going to perform surgery at the grocery store. So you want to scrub out. So Connie does this so beautifully. Her family knows, her kids know that when that door is closed and at these times is when mom is working, and they know you do not step foot across that door. It is hours of operation. You do not come in. Her husband knows you do not contact me when I am in the OR working. But once she's out of that and she's with her kids and helping them with homework and finding about their day and enjoying her work. Her clients do not come into that sacred family time. It does not. So, by getting really clear, that is how she was able to earn six figures in her first year with us. And she admittedly works 3 days a week. And she did it in about 9 months in the year. It was 12-month period, but she took 3 months off because they enjoyed a lot of holidays. That's what happens when you get surgical, when you get crystal clear. So you can find the time. Now, she didn't have another day job. She was quitting. However, she had 5 kids and she had a parent in hospice that she was visiting and tending to. So it's not like it was all, she followed instructions and made it surgical. So create your hours of operation and write down when are you working on your business and let your family know. But then also when your kids are asking you a question, there's no, what? And your kids pulling on you like this, trying to get your attention. Just a minute, just a minute, just a minute. Don't blur the boundaries. Get in, get out, focus and finish. Game changer. And that's, otherwise you can spend thousands of hours, decades spinning your wheels, trying to do everything all at once and accomplishing nothing. You want to focus and you want to have that clarity so that you know exactly what you're doing and when you're doing it. So find that time for you. It'll vary depending on your circumstances. I get it. When I was on call, it depended. Was I on call that weekend or was I not? That would vary. Depended on how old my children were. If it was, sometimes I would work it after they were in bed. I would sometimes book calls at 7 or 8 at night. Sometimes I'd be still at the hospital or at the clinic when I was doing those calls after everybody had gone home. And then I did my commute home. You figure it out. But and you might have some special circumstances. And I want to ensure you that it is solvable. There is a solution to this. This is one of those tricky situations sometimes that people have that is something that I help guide people through. But these are the 7 questions that we walk through to determine for them what do they need to do in order to create that amazing 6-figure health coaching practice without burning out. So one client, she worked 12 hours a day in the OR, and the commute was like 2 hours. I was like, can't we find something better? But 2 hours there and 2 hours back. And so she was getting up at 3 a.m. And so she had really long days. There's no way that you're going to create a health coaching practice at the end of that long day after you've worked 16 hours, 12 hours, and then, or 14, 16 hours. And it's not going to happen. However, so in her mind, though, it was like she has zero time. So if I'd asked how much time do you have, in her mind initially, it would have been 0. But when we dove in and we looked at what exactly are you doing at what times? Yes, I understand there's a lot. I get it. I had a lot. But then if we want to create this practice, how do we carve that out? And it turns out Thursdays, she had a day off most weeks. Not every week, but most weeks. Thursdays was our day. But here's what the mistake that she made. I don't want you to make it either, and here's how to adjust it. So what she would do is Thursdays, she would book all her doctor's appointments and all of those other appointments in the morning. And then in the afternoon, she worked her health coaching practice because her afternoon could go through to the evening. How many think that's going to work? You got this person who's burned out, working crazy long hours, and they finally get a break of a day off. They deal with all of the appointments and the lunches and everything for everybody else. And do you think they're going to focus in the afternoon? No, no. So here's what we did instead. One, all those 2-hour commutes, great. University on Wheels. I had her listen to all of our calls and recordings. She could listen to them on double speed. The entire drive there and the entire drive back, I'm delivering some amazing things that will save her time and money every day. So do that. That's that educational process. You'll start to love your commute. You won't even want to get out of the car. Second thing, that Thursday moment that we had off, if she's used to getting up at 3 a.m., keep getting up at 3 a.m. that day too. Only instead of giving it over to somebody else, focus on you. Focus on you. Get your fitness and your health and your vision and your gratitude there, and start working on your business. Anything that's not client facing, you can do before 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and then start to book your calls and in the morning. And you do your client work first. And then Thursday night, or whether it was Thursday night, then that is when you have a dinner with friends or something like that. You have to eat anyways. That's the night. Or if there is an opportunity on the weekend, there was a day on the weekend that she was very spiritual. That was a focus there. That's great. That's also a time when you can be reading and things, but just carving out that allows us to get a little toehold there. Otherwise, we end up not making time for our business because we feel like we have no energy left in the tank. We're already burnt out from our day job, and we never we never give any room for this little baby health coaching business to grow. You got to give it some fertile soil to grow in. You got to give it a little bit of space. It has to have some protected time on your calendar, or it ain't going to work. And if this means a lot, I understand you have challenges because you have a day job. Well, the great news is you have a day job and something's paying your bills. So we're going to appreciate and bless that. But if we want to create something other than that, this is the steps to get there. So the next question is number 7. The last one is, how can you reach that income, your poverty line, faster with your health coaching practice? So is there a way to lower your living expenses? Like I was sharing at the beginning, because when I looked at this initially, I'm like, it's not possible for me to earn that. It's not realistic to earn in zero time, 100,000 in no time with devoting no focus. It wasn't possible. So, initially it was like several 100,000, but to earn 100,000, okay, I brought that down as low as I can. And if you can bring it down, bring it down. Is there something else that you have that you can, is there a way that you can lower your living expenses? Is there a way that you can speed things up in your success? So where are you focusing your time and energy? And one of those things that we help people with, so I will say this is one of those areas that's our specialty, because I did have such a challenging leap to compensate for. So it wasn't like I had someone else paying the bills. I had to have this health coaching practice pay a really high amount to cover my medical licenses and that before I could just stop and quit. Because as soon as I quit there, that income goes to zero. So in order to make that transition, it's tricky. It's tricky. So downsizing the house, looking at any discretionary spending that I can cut down on. Where can you do that? And it's up to you how much you're willing to do that. And it'll depend on what phase of life you're in and how badly you want this. and how badly your toxic position is. I will say sometimes the position that you're in is so extremely toxic, or let's say even unsafe, then you might need to get another job to pay the bills until your health coaching practice gets up to speed, because the depletion in your energy, but it takes time to find another job. The best case scenario is stick it out and leave. But sometimes if you're in an abusive situation, sometimes you need to find something else or someone else to help support you through that. There are different types of funding and third party funding and business loans that sometimes people are able to do in order to get their businesses up and running. It's not uncommon for a startup business to require funding to get up off the ground, and a health coaching business is no exception. I'm a big believer in the lean startup, keeping those expenses as low as possible so that, you don't have as much to compensate for and to correct for, and you get to be in the black that much sooner. But those are all things to consider when you are trying to decide when. So bring the living expenses as low as you are willing to. Create your income as quickly as you are able to. And the way to do that is to focus on the time that you are able to devote to your business. And what I'll say with the health coaches that we mentor through our system, and following a proven system absolutely will save you time and money. So if you can find someone who's done it, I know Rachel, one of our six-figure health coaches, when she started with us, she says, I can't afford the time or money to do this. And she also had 5 kids, and lived in a tiny town and was working. And she's like, I can't afford the time or money to do this. But she'd already spent 2 years trying to figure this out on her own and getting nowhere. And so she said, but more importantly, I can't afford not to. And that's the thing, because in a year, she reached 6 figures and now she's at 500,000 and scaling. It was the best use of her time and money. So when you're going to invest, you want to get a return on that investment. So getting as much information as you can for free, absolutely do that. But if you can find a business plan that is not trading time for money, that is what we teach. Do not trade time for money, because there's just not enough hours in the day. But do deliver results, excellent results for your clients. But following a proven blueprint, a roadmap that is tried and true with accountability and support is absolutely cheaper and faster, and allows you to be able to let go of your day job way sooner. That just makes sense. That makes logical sense. I hired mentors as soon as I could. Mostly at the beginning, there was no one who had left a medical practice and created a 6-figure health coaching practice. There was nobody that had done that when I did it. So I pieced together mentors, mainly single men in other types of businesses, and often with no kids. And so they had different challenges, but they didn't really know necessarily my challenges. But I pieced together mentors in different areas for different pieces, and those mentors were invaluable. And you'll hear me reference my mentors, and I have mentors currently too, that for every stage, because I know how much that can save you time and money. But if you have a day job and you're like, man, how can I make this work? And just for reference, I'll just give you an example. For people who are starting with us, they just have to be able to allocate 2 hours a week. 2 hours a week. If they can allocate and squeeze out 2 hours a week, we can work with that. So that's like 15 minutes a day. And if people don't have 15 minutes a day to allocate to create a successful, soul satisfying 6-figure business and generate an income producing asset for themselves that they are 100% in control of and they can scale to the moon. If that's not worth 15 minutes of your day, this is not for you. Health coaching is not for you. Then entrepreneurship is not for you. Then you got to stay with your day job, but at least you know you don't need to complain because there is an opportunity and it will require at least 15 minutes a day of focus. But if you can do that, you can inch yourself free. Of course, the more time you can devote, the faster that you can scale, but at least that amount of time. And it's about the consistency and the focus rather than hours per se. Because a lot of our health coaches that have been really successful, it's not like they just had a ton of time. But they were able to be focused and follow a plan. And that's why I'm taking the time to do that, because a lot of times people just say, well, I'll keep working, and they in their spare time, they're trying to piece this together. And I've never seen that work. So you want to be deliberate and carve out your hours of operation. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you have some clarity about the numbers, the dollars and the time that you require in order to know when is the right time to quit your day job. It's a tricky situation, and these steps and these questions will help you know for you. And everyone is unique. Everyone has unique situations. Some of you have someone else paying bills. Sometimes people have savings. Sometimes people have something they can sell, like a house or a car. Martita sold her apartment, and she reached 140,000 in her first year. So it's that commitment, that focus and that commitment of time and energy and often money as well that allows this to flourish. You have a game plan, you know where you're going, and part of creating that successful health coaching practice that will allow you to let go of your day job is by getting really great at having successful sales conversations. And we're going to dive into that in the next episode. We'll see you over there. Be sure to share this with your health coach friends. Be good for you.